Well, hello, cabin leaders, and welcome back. We are in our third training, and we are going to do today parts 3 and 4 together in this session, all right? Because keeping kids safe and then problem solving when things come up, we need to help manage behavior or help manage struggling, right? Kids that are struggling. Those are really two sides of the same coin. This is why we're doing this, why we're trying to help. And so as we get started, thinking about what happens when problems arise, I want us to just remember that misbehavior is the result of a kid's needs not being met, right? Now, the need is often somewhere under the issue that's presenting itself, but we're going to start by talking about what are some of the needs that kids come to camp with, basic human needs, and what does it look like in a group setting. Okay, so humans have basic needs, all humans, for affection, for power and freedom, for recognition, for security, for new experiences. And at camp, the tricky thing is we are not just dealing with individual kids, we're dealing with kids in the context of a real group setting. Right? It's groupy all the time at camp. And for some kids, this is a challenge in and of itself to be in groups all the time. And so let's just think for a moment. Affection, the human need for affection in a group setting, what does that look like? Well, often that looks like the real need for belonging. Kids need to know I belong in this group. You want me here. I am liked here. Kids who need power and freedom in a group setting, that often, here's a question, are you the only one making decisions in your cabin, or are you giving kids the room to have input and freedom? Okay, you'll get happier kids if you choose the latter. Recognition. I like to use I notice statements for recognition. Once a day, I just try to make sure I say something to every kid like this: hey, I noticed you went swimming today. Right? Mind blowing. But those small deposits in kids, our ICUs, really go a long way in helping kids know that they're safe with you. And security in a group setting really looks like, hey, person in charge. If you're in charge, are you going to hold me accountable to the rules, the expectations? Are you going to hold all of us, right? Are you going to hold my counterparts accountable to this? Kids like cabin leaders who do that. Okay, kids like cabin leaders who are strict but kind, who are generous and patient, but also will make sure that we are actually meeting the expectations that have been laid out before us. Okay, some of you do this so well. And then kids, it's the magic of camp, are looking for new experiences. It's part of this developmental stage they're in. It's part of all humans' desire for adventure, for a little bit of what is out in the world for me. And so kids who, oh, I spelled it nicely, kids who are at camp get a lot of opportunity to do this. I think this is part of the magic of camp. But we want to make sure that we're helping every kid in our cabin get a piece of this, get to try something new. Okay, so now let us talk a little bit about the method here when it's time to correct kids, when we need to help some kids out. Connected Families is an organization my church works with. I think they're brilliant. And here's what they have to say about correction. Okay, they say that correction really is like the top tier of a pyramid. Okay, and for kids to be able to receive your correction, they first need to have a foundation of safety with you. Okay, and so expectations, rules, caring for all of those pieces lay the groundwork for this. And if kids know they're safe with you, then they can believe that they are loved by you, that you're glad they're at camp, you're glad they're in your cabin. Right? If they don't feel safe with you, they're not going to believe you if you just tell them that. Okay, and by the same token here, if kids believe that you will make a safe place for them, that you will love them, then they open up to some coaching by you. Right, and this is exactly our theme for this week. We want to help kids know that they are called, that God has a plan for them. And so we have to put these foundations down so that we can coach them into those callings. We can say, hey, I really see you doing this well, and I think maybe Jesus has some kingdom work for you around the area of listening. I see you listening so well. This kind of thing, okay? And only if these pieces are in play are kids going to accept correction from us. Okay, and I know that is, you want it to be easier. You want them to just accept correction because you said so. And it just turns out that if kids don't have these pieces and we try to correct them, it just fight, flight, freeze just ramps up, right? And they get defensive and self-protected. And so we need to be working on these pieces so that when the time comes, we can correct kids. A few thoughts about that time, that sweet moment when you're like, oh, you're really, really struggling to do what I've asked you to do, or I noticed you're really struggling with this interaction with another camper. Couple thoughts. One, stay calm. Okay, easier said than done. Please know that it is absolutely okay to delay a conversation with a kid until you are calm. I have done this so many times in my life. I'll just straight up say to a kid, I'm feeling a little upset right now, and so I need a few minutes to calm down before I can talk to you about this. Kids respond pretty well to that. Sometimes a little shocked, sometimes a little satisfied, which is obnoxious. but but they respect that you want to be in charge of your own self, okay? And so please feel free to do that. Two, provide choices for kids wherever you can, especially within limits. Okay, so maybe you need to get your cabin from point A to point B, and your kids are getting grumble. I don't know. I've seen cabin leaders do this. They'll say, "Hey, we need to get to the campfire pretty soon. You can wait for me inside the cabin or outside the cabin." All of that choice that builds into that power piece that kids have some say in their day, and so just getting ahead of those things is really helpful. Three, if it's consequences time, I just ask you to do it with empathy, right? A kid is often, I don't think kids like prefer to be freaking out, right? Instead of not freaking out. Kids don't like to be upset any more than we like them to be upset. And so I work on this before I let words out of my mouth. There's always a moment where I gotta look for the empathy. Okay, sometimes it's easier to access, usually if a kid's struggling with something I struggle with. But if a kid is really different from me, this is a Holy Spirit moment to say, Holy Spirit, I need some empathy. I need you to help me kind of feel what this kid needs, some wisdom, some guidance from you. Do we believe the Holy Spirit shows up in that moment? I think we gotta. And I encourage you to just have that moment with the Holy Spirit if you're looking for empathy. And then number three, seek reconnection, reintegration when the disciplinary time or conversation is over. We don't need to spend a whole day, right, on this stuff. We will be on it. We will address it as it comes up. We won't let things pass us by, but we'll talk to kids. If there's a consequence, there's a consequence, and then we will step forward together. Okay, and then as a strategy, I would encourage you, especially for kids, like maybe something has happened twice. Maybe there's been a recurring issue. Maybe somebody's touching somebody else's stuff, and it happened twice now. This right here, the what, so what, now what conversation is a nice tool for this. Okay, so often the second time something happens with a kid, I will find a moment, not in the heat of the moment, and I would just say, I'd like to talk. Can we talk for a couple minutes, maybe while we're walking to the candy cabin, about this thing that happened today where you were in John's stuff. Okay, and so I'll ask the kid, can you tell me, just remind me again, what happened? Why were you in there? What was going on? And the kid will tell you. And then I try to get the kid to ask a so what question. Okay, well, it seems like we've had this conversation a couple times now. Like, how are you feeling? So what? Like, how are you feeling, right? What is happening as a result of your actions? How are you feeling now that I've had to talk to you about this? And often a kid's like, I don't want to be talking to you about this. It's annoying. Or whatever. Okay? And so then the conversation, you want to gear it to a now what? Okay, so we've had this conversation twice. You don't like talking to me about it. It seems like it's uncomfortable. So the next time you wonder if you should go into John's stuff, what could you maybe tell yourself? Right? Is there maybe a thing you need to move? Do you need to move some of your things so you don't want to touch? I don't know. Right? But this idea that after the issue, in a calm moment, you can be proactive with the camper about what could happen next time, I think is gone pretty well for me in the past. To just have a conversation explicitly about the issue that's coming up, especially if it's a repeat, and say, we're going to stop there. Okay. And then finally, I'll just say this. I am your support. I am a resource. If you are at an empty tank with kids and you need some help, it is my pleasure to do so. I'm not going to say I enjoy, but I really like walking kids through this stuff. I like the progress we can make together. I think it something good happens in the relationship when we can do it together. So I am absolutely willing to be here if you need a break, need some help with a kid. We have some experts on our cabin leader team. I can ask them also to step in as a resource when we need it. Get help when you need it, okay? as a null curriculum idea, things we will never do. Okay, we will never shame kids by name calling or teasing. Okay, it's belittling. We don't do it. We will never physically punish kids, pinch, pull their shirt, right? Hit. We will not. We will not. Okay, you will be sent home from camp. We will not ever do that. Okay, what we do want to do is establish clear expectations, provide structure without being drill sergeants, encourage desirable behaviors, and then we will repair when we make mistakes, right? You will likely fail once this week. I have failed, right, over and over the years at camp. Day 4, you're tired, you're grumpy, and you snap at a kid, or you tease a kid. Man, all we can do at that point, right, is believe in grace, believe that the Holy Spirit can repair in us and through us, and say we're sorry to a kid. Okay, I've never had an apology with a child go wrong. I've only had them go right. It's not miraculous. It's how apologies work, but please be aware that it's not a game over when you mess up with kids. There's grace, and you can go and you can try to make it right. All right, we'll be back for part 4 shortly.